All right, and we are back with the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Eric Rodriguez, here every Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific Time, 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Sorry, excuse me. Going to talk about the greatest thing in the world, professional wrestling. A huge fan, obviously been a fan my whole entire life. Ever since I was, 6 or 7 years old, I remember returning on some, Monday Night Raw. And obviously, later on down the line, we had, SmackDown on UPN, which was badass. I like that. It was pretty cool with my family, and it's just, it was great. It was great. But we talk about the past, we talk about the present, we talk about the future as well. Sometimes we talk about some WCW. Hey, screw it. Sometimes we talk about some ECW. It's all glory, it's all gravy, baby. So obviously, this show is all about talking about professional wrestling. Obviously, this kind of reflect on what we talked about right quick. We had our WWE Monday Night Raw review, our WWE NXT talk. We also talked about Vince McMahon, the Mr. McMahon docuseries on Netflix. Give you guys my initial reaction. Obviously, it was a lot to cover, so I might have missed some spots, but overall, I thought it went pretty smooth. Thought it went pretty smooth. And in our fourth segment, we talked about Mr. McMahon starting a new wrestling promotion. Is it something that could be profitable? Is it something that could possibly it could basically be watchable? Like without, obviously, I feel like if it's going to work, it would have to incorporate a lot of Mr. McMahon, maybe a couple of past wrestlers. Brock Lesnar stated that he doesn't want to go to WWE unless Vince McMahon's part of it. That was kind of like his thing, because Vince McMahon took care of, Brock Lesnar, have him winning the championships and stuff like that. So, I don't know, it's kind of crazy. But now we're going to jump on into our Tuesdays. Today in wrestling history, we're going to jump on into my DeLorean, gun it to 88 miles per hour. And yeah, we're going to jump on in through this journey here. So yeah, let's go ahead and do this, guys. Are you ready? Are you ready right now? We're going to stop at a 7-Eleven, get your favorite soda. I'm just kidding, no. Uh, but moving on. All right. So in 1985, before going up against Ric Flair at Starrcade, Dusty Rhodes delivered his instantly iconic Hard Times promo, which is frequently held up as one of the best in the history of professional wrestling. Dusty Rhodes he was special. There's a reason why, he was very prominent with the NWA and, wrestling in WWE/WWF for a little bit, never really came in fruition. That his son came out, Cody Rhodes, and he was kind of seen as a glorified jobber. Didn't really make it. It took Cody to come out of WWE, wrestle with the independent circuit, kind of become a main star, kind of being like, look, like this is what you guys were missing. This is what WWE, you missed out on a lot of, future stars that could have been huge, that could have been very, very huge. Obviously, you had the push of, Cody Rhodes coming out with his dad, and then you had, Florida Championship Wrestling as well. Then you had, oh, what was that in Cleveland? I think it was. I'm not too sure. Don't quote me on this. Um, you had a lot of these territories. You had NXT starting to come in fruition, and it got to the point where there were so many of these young guys that probably Vince and Triple H not Triple H at the time, probably Vince saw with like Pat Patterson and Jared Briscoe and Bruce Pritchard. They're probably like, you know what, let's just go with these guys. But obviously they brought Cody back, seeing how he matured. The guy started his own wrestling promotion, for Christ's sakes, AEW. So I don't know. Dusty Rhodes was definitely undervalued. He was supposed to be that new guy that was set, that was going to take WWE to the next level. Once when you kind of saw, you know, um, you know, um, Vince McMahon was like, okay, we need somebody to kind of take us. We need someone with that flair. Before they chose Hulk Hogan, Vince McMahon Senior wanted to choose Dusty Rhodes, but Vince McMahon was kind of like, I just want to go with something different. So I definitely think I thought it was kind of crazy. In 1988, in New Orleans, Louisiana, the Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal defeated the Midnight Express, Bobby Eaton, and Stan Lane to win the NWA World Tag Team Championships. Congratulations! I loved myself some Road Warriors. I remember playing Super Nintendo. Me and my brother would always be Hawk and Animal. Taking on the natural disasters, earthquake and typhoon, and it was just their theme song was badass. Like it was just so I don't know, it was just cool. I thought it was badass. I was a huge, obviously I kind of got into them a little later where they were showing, they were kind of featured on, later WWE television still, but they were just still, oh my god, and the the shoulder pads, the football pads with the spikes. It was, oh my god, it was sick. It was out of this world. Oh my god, it was out of this world amazing. I loved the Road Warriors, and I was lucky to kind of see them, in their last kind of stint. So, but overall, badass, super sick. You still see the Doomsday device being portrayed on WWE. So, got to respect that. In 1995, WCW Halloween Havoc took place in the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, Michigan during the Zodiac or Brutus Beefcake versus Randy Savage match. A female fan got into the ring and tried to attack Savage, but was restrained and ejected by the referee. The main event featured the in-ring debut of the Giant Paul White, the Big Show, going up against Hulk Hogan for the second time for that show. Earlier, they faced off in a monster truck sumo match, which ended with when Hulk Hogan accidentally knocked the Giant off the roof of the Cabo Hall. An actual match, which was that WCW stuff. Like you had matches like this, and that's something that during 1995, where they were trying to establish themselves as a wrestling promotion. This is not really like much of a surprise. You kind of had to think outside of the box. You kind of outside of the box. Sorry, excuse me. You kind of had you had to get those new innovative ideas that would draw fans in. That would draw wrestling fans to kind of come watch this. So, and then when you saw the Giant debut, obviously the Big Show. If you guys don't know who he is, Paul White. He's a big dude. He's a big dude. He kind of gave off, and I'm not trying to, compare apples to oranges here, but he kind of gave off a lot of, the Andre the Giant kind of feel, kind of like a reboot, kind of like a reincarnated version of Andre the Giant taking on Hulk Hogan, maybe potentially having this feud where, it's just basically people living in nostalgia being like, oh, holy crap. It's just like, Andre the Giant taking on Hulk Hogan in the 80s. But obviously it wasn't it wasn't that. It wasn't that. And it's it was, I'm not trying to crap on the Giant or anything like that. Or I ultimately I like the Big Show in WWE. Obviously, in terms of bigger wrestlers don't really deserve the pushes that they ultimately get because they look so dominant to begin with every single time they step inside the ring. Every entrance they come out with like such aura, such like dominating this dominating physicality presence. And it's not easy to kind of book. It's and you saw the Big Show booked in a lot of being booked in a lot of bookings that necessarily didn't seem like it was right for him. I can name definitely one off the bat. In his later career, teaming up with Vince McMahon, Shane McMahon, taking on Degeneration. I thought that was stupid. I thought that was terrible. It sucks for the show. I feel like the Attitude Era would not be there without him. I definitely loved it when he did team up with the Undertaker. I thought that was badass. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. In 2000, sorry, excuse me, my notes are acting wonky. In 2000, in what we Voter Wrestling newsletter, the worst major show in 2000, the 12th and final WCW Halloween Havoc pay-per-view was held at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. One of the matches saw Jeff Jarrett pin Sting after various interference from 5 other people dressed as Sting against the actual Sting. WCW, what can that? 2000s, kind of heading toward the brink there. Elsewhere on the card, you saw Buff Bagwell face, David Flair in a First Blood DNA match to see who was the father of Stacy Keibler's unborn child, which was won by Bagwell after busting Flair open. After the match, Lex Luger attacked Bagwell, causing him to also bleed, which allowed Flair to steal a DNA sample from Buff Bagwell. Not really much there. Moving on. In 2005, Chikara Next Monster Mash is held in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The opening match sees Jervis Cotton Belly lose to Ghostface from the Scream movies by disqualification, and following this darkness, Crabtree hit a stunner on the Grim Reaper for the pin and the win. The main event is Dracula the Mummy and the Wolfman taking on Jason Voorhees, Freddy, and Leatherface. The match ended after Dracula slammed Jason, allowing the Mummy to hit a shooting star press and get the cover. So that's pretty badass. In 2007, on the Monday Night Raw, Kelly Kelly wins a 10-woman Halloween Battle Royal, and later Hornswoggle beats Jonathan Coachman with Mick Foley as the special guest referee. The main event saw Triple H lose in a handicap match to a team of Randy Orton and Umaga, also interference from the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. In 2018, abroad, Chris Jericho's Rock and Wrestling Rager at Sea Cruise, a high wattage 6-man tag team match took place, dubbed as the Bullet Club versus the Alpha Club. In the match, you saw Cody, Marty Scroll, and Kenny Omega of the Bullet Club defeat Chris Jericho and the Young Bucks Alpha Club. In 2020 on NXT UK, Walter successfully defends the brand's title belt against Ilya Dragunov in a match that went for over 25 minutes. And we have a notable birthday today. We have Paul Orndorff. He was born in 1949. Obviously, talking about wrestling in the 80s, he was a huge competitor going up against Roddy Piper, also going up against Hulk Hogan. So definitely throwing flowers to his birthday there, and talking about some crazy stuff that has happened on this day in the past of professional wrestling. So thank you guys for taking this ride with me. Hopefully, I drove the DeLorean, with following all the rules, never exceeded the amount of 88 miles per hour. I'm sorry, I'm a huge Back to the Future dork. Definitely love Doc Brown and the DeLorean. It was just badass, just so cool. Oh my god, it was definitely one of the best movies ever made. I don't know if that's harshly or if that's a hot take mentioning on this podcast, but I feel like Back to the Future is definitely in the top 10 of the greatest movies ever made. All right, guys. So, hey, that's it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Hope you guys had fun. That's obviously, hope you guys felt like you guys were a part of the show. This is our show, not necessarily my show in the GSMC Sports Network. But thank you guys for tuning in always to the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast. Love you guys 1,010%. Remember to follow us on Twitter/X, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook for more content and updates. Also, remember that the GSMC Sports Network, we do love a lot of peace, love, and positivity. So don't forget to donate. Also, it helps keep the lights on for a lot of these awesome podcasters to keep doing what they're doing. And remember, if you're not a wrestling fan by now, we have basketball right around the corner. We got Nelson with the GSMC Basketball Podcast. We got, NFL cooking up. We have, the Chip Shot Football Podcast with my boy Manny and the GSMC Football Podcast with Kenneth. If you want to find out all the latest news in the NFL, reviews, previews of the week by week, NFL season. Make sure you guys tune into their shows. We also got, college football as well. We got my boy Tommy with the GSMC College Football Podcast. Make sure you guys tune into that. And of course, surrounding football, college, NFL, whatever, comes fantasy. Hope everybody's fantasy lineups are still intact. I know that it's, I drafted, I drafted who? Kittle, Samuel, and it seemed like they all kind of went down at the same time, and I was like, great. Oh my God, great. Not really that great. I had to pick up Devin Singletary from the Giants, which wasn't great. But if you want to find out all the stardoms, the symptoms, who to pick up after waiver wire, all the hottest information in terms of fantasy sports, make sure you tune into Chris Shepard's GSMC Fantasy Sports Podcast. Maybe your team could turn out to be a WWE champion. Also, we have all around sports. We talk about the World Series, talk about basketball, football, baseball, you name it. With my boy TJ with the GSMC Sports Podcast and Sports by GSMC with my boy Jeremy. Make sure you guys tune into their shows. And of course, we got my boy Emran in 3 minutes starting this GSMC Soccer Podcast. So if you're starting to get into soccer, or if you're a diehard, veteran in terms of being a fan of the action you see on the pitch, make sure you tune into Emran's podcast. It's, super entertaining, super awesome. Definitely, 1,010%. You guys will not, never, ever, ever regret subscribing to the GSMC Sports Network and seeing all these amazing podcasters doing something that, I watch their podcasts, and you gotta be honest, you learn a lot. You learn a lot, and you're a student of the game. That's especially, that's how I feel. I definitely, think that you can only get better. You can only get better. And definitely watching these guys' podcasts definitely makes me, definitely want to make me step up my game. Definitely, ultimately makes me want to, kind of pick up some of these cues, kind of pick up some of their, their terminology. Maybe sometimes during their segments, they kind of do like a stint, I guess you would, you can like to say, or like a list or a breakdown that I'm like, oh, like crap, maybe, I could do something like that. So, definitely love and respect all these guys. Hope you guys had an amazing Tuesday, gearing up for an amazing Wednesday. Stay beautiful, but most importantly, love you.